Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of Maple Tech News. I'm Rick, your host, and as usual, we're going to go over a couple of stories that I found were very important in the last week. We focused primarily on hardware, but today we're going to actually have a little bit of game news because it's a big series that's launching another sequel, and hopefully if the game turns out good, it might be a big impact for the industry because it's a very popular game in the past. So we're going to be looking at a couple of stories today. Primarily, we're going to look at the whole Vega pricing issue because there's been a lot of news about this in the past week. We're also going to look at the Intel's 8th generation packaging that was officially launched by Intel this week. So it actually confirms a lot of the rumors that have been circulating as well over the last 2 weeks, a couple of which I already reported on in previous episodes, but now we can get it in an official capacity. And finally, we're going to kick it off with the story about a new game sequel to a very popular game series that's launching. So first of all, let's start with the AMD Vega news, we're going to start with this one because in my opinion, right now it's the least interesting of the stories because it's still up in the air. A lot of people said it was confirmed that Vega would actually be changing price, going up about $100 on the MSRP. So meaning that basically instead of $400, a Vega 56 would be at $500, and a Vega 64 rather than $500 would be at $600, really knocking the whole price to performance deal they had going on, because basically Vega was a pretty good deal right now, price for performance at the current prices compared to the 1070 and the 1080. But if you pop them up an extra $100, it totally knocks that off the table, and they become actually pretty bad deals if you're not using the compute functions. If we're talking about just gaming, they become bad deals. Of course, if you're going to be using the compute functions of the card, they still can answer a demand in the market even at the new prices. Now, AMD sort of was tight-lipped for almost a whole week, waiting, I guess, for things to settle down and see I imagine they were waiting to see if the story would actually just disappear on its own or if it would actually keep going. And it did keep going. And basically, they came out with an official statement, but they're actually sidestepping the issue a bit. In this article of WCCF Tech, they actually do a pretty good job of, going over what happened, but we're going to look at it ourselves, and I'm going to try to explain basically what AMD explained. Is that basically AMD, to hit their pricing, which is very aggressive, they were offering to retailers off-the-shelf, a very low price that they're selling the cards at, which allowed them to hit the MSRPs of $499 for Vega 64 and $399 for Vega 56. And for the moment, all they're saying is that they haven't officially decided if they're going to be offering the same price to retailers as for the first batch, because basically the first batch of RX Vega is sold out. And all that AMD said is that they are not guaranteeing to retailers what they're going to be offering the next wave of Vega 64 of Vega products at. So they could offer it at the same price, meaning that the vendors can actually hit the same MSRP. But if production costs go up for the next wave or whatnot, they might have to sell them for $100 more, because at the same time they can't lose money on producing these cards, which is just logical. Does it end up being good for AMD in the long run? It probably won't change much if mining keeps up the way it is, because the cards will be sold anyway, and AMD is just going to make extra money off of it. So you can't really blame them for that issue either. But basically, what in the end we're going to have to do is wait and see till the next wave happens. And right now, it took them actually a lot of months to get the stock together to launch the first wave, which is why they said they were delayed for RX Vegas to actually have enough stockpile to be able to offer a decent launch, and they were sold out almost instantly. So I think that no matter how long they would have waited, they would have never been able to offer enough cards to meet the current demand because of the mining issue. But anyway, so basically, unfortunately, the story ends up being we don't know what the next price will be. But yes, it is very likely that there could be a price hike on the next batch because production values are going to go up. And at the same time, even if they go up $100 because of mining right now, the cards are going to sell anyway. So retailers and AMD aren't dumb. They're probably going to do it if they can to basically be able to make money off of the cards they're building right now. So we're going to wait for the partner cards, see where those prices fall, if they're actually going to fall close to the Founders Edition, well, not Founders Edition, but the original AMD version, or if they're going to be higher up. We'll see. It all depends on how much basically AMD are selling the boards, I guess, to the partners. So we should see that in the next few weeks, and we'll be following the story as it goes along. Okay, let's switch over to something a little bit more, well, interesting in the fact that it's much more concrete. It's that basically Intel has released the packaging for the 8th generation CPUs. And by looking at the packaging itself and what's on the packaging, we can actually confirm a lot of things. Number one, the good news is i5 is going to have 6 cores without hyper-threading, so 6 cores, 6 threads. And the i7s are going to be 6 core, 12 threads. So it's really positive news that, you know, Intel is following suit with AMD and upping the core count, meaning that next generation will be very interesting because AMD will have a real fight on its hands if Intel can manage to keep high clock rates and up the cores. Of course, we don't know what the clock rates are going to be because by upping the cores, they might be stuck having to lower the clock speeds almost assuredly. But that's the good news, is that we are getting 6 core processors in the mainstream for the next generation. Okay. Now, the bad news, however, we already reported on it and now it's confirmed. It says on the box that unfortunately you're going to these CPUs are compatible with new 300 series motherboards. So that does mean that anyone going to the 8th generation CPU will have to buy a new motherboard. They will not be compatible with the current Z170 or Z270 boards or any 100 series or 200 series board. So unfortunately, that is the bad news that we can tell from the packaging. Other than that, so basically, you know, if we look at the article here from OC3D, Overclockers 3D Net, by the way, all these articles will be linked in the description if you want to consult them yourselves and get, you know, read through the articles more in detail. But basically, they're focusing really on the fact that it's 6 cores and there's a new motherboard series. While if we go over here to PC World, they also talk a little bit about the new onboard graphics system, which seems to go from UHD instead of HD. So we're probably going to have a sort of new in-between generation of Intel onboard graphics. I'm not going to focus too much on this because honestly, probably all of you out there are running discrete graphics cards anyway. You don't use the onboard graphics. But, you know, the information's there from the packaging nonetheless. So if you want to consult it, I'm going to link the article of PC World also in the description below. And lastly, our game news. I'm a big fan of the series, and when I heard that officially Age of Empires 4 is in the works, I was really, really happy. Now, you know, this is a series that's been around for many, many years. It sort of peaked in Age of Empires 2, in my opinion, like and the expansion sets that came along with it. Age of Empires 3 was a good game, but it didn't make quite the revolution that Age of Empires 2 did. So hopefully with Age of Empires 4, they can actually really maybe hit some marks and get the series, you know, back up to one of the best, you know, real-time strategy games, RTSs you can play out there. And, you know, it's going to be produced by Company of Heroes and Homeworld, so 2 very good developers if you know the other games they've made. And like I said, you can consult the article once again from PC World. And basically the last thing is that theoretically, Age of Empires, the definitive edition, is going to be releasing on October 19th. So this is like a retro a retro version, a remaster of a previous Age of Empires, so you can read through it. And there will be a beta starting on August 22nd. So if you're an Age of Empires fan, if you love this series, do consult this article. It's worth the time because there's a lot of news here. And like I said, there's not only the news of Age of Empires 4, but there's the remastered of the Age of Empires and Age of Empires 2. So, you know, read through the article. It's really interesting, and it's good news for anyone who's a fan of the series to have the series being rebooted a little bit and get its next expansion on top of it. Its next sequel, sorry, on top of it. So as usual, I hope you guys liked hearing the news for this week. You know, any questions, comments, please leave them in the description down below. As usual, likes are really appreciated. New subscriptions are loved. And I hope I'll catch you guys in my next video. See you guys next week.